Greetings, fellow YouTuber. My name is Tim. Fellow YouTuber, welcome once again to another Friday night filled with laughter, merriment, good times, good cheer, good friends, and good God, what a waste of time this is going to be for the next hour. My name is Tim Gainer. This is GainerWorld Live. I thank you so much for popping in and joining me this evening, as people do every single Friday night. If this is your first time here, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the replay here on YouTube or some other fine social media thing that they're probably ripping me off on because I don't broadcast anyplace else. But if you are doing that, we bid you welcome. Welcome, weary traveler. Come, set a spell. Come with us as we ease through another weary week where we're just, we're just going to hang out and just kind of talk about stuff for a little while. Nothing wrong with that. We do this every single Friday night. We kind of hang out and talk about stuff and do things and have some fun, and that's generally about it. So if you're looking for hard-hitting entertainment, you've either got really bad taste or well, somebody's giving you the wrong definition of entertainment. One of the two. It's been a really interesting week. I really want to thank everybody for popping in this evening. And if you do want to join us, this is a very interactive show, by the way. As you can tell, right about, down here. Yeah, right here. Okay, starting off right here. Because, usually when you watch YouTube, you got to really strain your neck way over here. Okay? Way over here to kind of watch the chat. No. We bring the chat to you. Oh, yeah. So that way you don't have to, worry about neck strain or anything like that. Eye strain is the only thing that you need to worry about, if nothing else. So, yeah, got that going for us this week. And it's been a very interesting week, to say the least. Lots of weird stuff going on. But the most weird, we'll get to that in just a sec. But in the meantime, what I do want to remind you is as soon as we are out of here at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, would you do me a great favor? Take your laptop or your tablet or your phone or whatever you're doing and run over to hugs@wrgg.com. HUGSATWRGG.com. Now, what is Hugs 24/7 Radio? It says right there, you see. What that is a very, very special radio station, internet radio station, that specializes in the unsigned independent artist. It's something that we've all been involved with for about the last, 4 years or so. And our pal Cyrus Gray is going to be running down the top 10, the Hugs top 10. Yes, believe it or not, Hugs has a top 200 chart of unsigned artists. And Cyrus is going to be giving you the top 10 unsigned independent artists from around the world. That's going to come up right after this show, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, the Hugs Top 10 Countdown, followed by the Hugs Shockwave, all new music from all new artists battling to get onto the charts. So make sure you join us for that. It's going to be on Hugs 24/7 Radio, HUGSATWRGG.com. Pop on over there. We would appreciate it. Won't you, please? Thank you so much. So, yeah, that's one of the things that we're doing, and also getting ready for the Hug Summer Concert Series, which is going to be going on in Lisbon, Ohio, next month. As a matter of fact, we are exactly 28 days away from that, which I'm feeling really excited about. Head on, again, hugs@wrgg.com. We'll give you all the details about that, how to get tickets. I can tell you tickets available at brownpapertickets.com. So 2 days of great music and in a great setting at the Eleanor Acres Event Center in Lisbon, Ohio. We're going to have a lot of fun there. Speaking of which, I was talking to said same Cyrus last night after heading out to dinner with an old radio pal of mine. And he called me laughing. I'm like, what's so funny? He said, you know how you do those things every once in a while where you get weird phone calls and people want, get weird emails and people want you to call them back, the scammers. And I'm like, yeah. He said, I got one. I said, send me the info. Of course, I need him to send me the info. Okay. So he sends me this email from Scott Cunningham at gmail.com telling Cyrus that his Geek Squad order of $413 has been processed. And that in order to stop this, or if you have any questions, feel free to call Geek Squad at this number. I think you know where this is going to go. So whatever number this is going to lean to in Austin, Texas, because I already looked it up tonight, we're about to find out. We're about to find out. And I really hope this number is working. Because the last two times, it hasn't worked so well. But let's give it a shot and see what happens.
The number you have dialed does not accept any phone calls. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
The number you call. Wait, they want me to call, but the number is not accepting any phone calls. What? Maybe I dialed it wrong. Hold on a second. Let's find this out. 43. 1.
The number you have dialed does not accept any phone calls. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
Call if you have any questions to a number that doesn't accept any phone calls. How stupid are these people? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, man. One of these days, one of these calls is going to work. And when they do, we're going to be ready. You might hear some ambient noises coming from out. It may sound like outside, and the reason for that is because it is another beautiful night here in the great city of Chicago. To the point where we've got the studio window open. We've got the fan blowing, the breeze blowing. It is just a beautiful night outside. And gonna have us a time, if you know what I'm saying. So, be that as it may, it has been one of those weeks. In fact, I guess it's time that we get to that portion of the show that everyone's looking forward to. Yep. Time for the Deadpool report. Let's go for it, kids. What do you say? This just came in this morning, and you might have heard it by now. But our occasional guest co-host Chris King pops in and says, "What if I'm not looking forward to it?" I know you are. I know you are, mister. I can see it in your eyes. That's right. And this one's important. This one is important because, according to our friends at the Death List, and this is the official Death List, this is the top 10 people that are expected to check out over the course of 2023. Of the top 10, this man was listed as number 7. And this morning, it was reported by our friends at NBC Tony Bennett, number 7 in the top 10 of the Deadpool. The one and only Tony Bennett. That stylist, that beautiful stylist, whose devotion to classic American songs, the Great American Songbook, passed away this morning at the age of 96, 2 weeks short of his 97th birthday. Amu City already popping in. Amu City Games popping in to say he left his heart in San Francisco and shuffled loose his mortal coil in New York. Yeah. He did die in his hometown of New York City. His publicist Sylvia Weiner confirmed his death to the AP this morning. Even Chris is saying Betty White wasn't going to let him outdo her. Yeah, no. She always was a feisty broad anyway. There is no specific cause of Tony's death, but it has been known that he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's back in 2016. This is the end of an era. This is the end of an honest-to-God era. I mean, people use that phrase so flippantly, but it is. It's the end of an era. He was one of the last of the great saloon singers, the last torchlight singers. You know, the guys that would do the supper clubs up there in the Poconos on a Friday night, you know, back in the mid-20th century. He always said his ambition was to create a hit catalog rather than hit records. Yeah. And I'd rather create a hit catalog rather than hit records. But he released more than 70 albums in his career. He won 19 Grammys, all but 2 after he reached his mid-60s. Think about that for a minute. I mean, everybody has been chiming in about this. And he was one of those guys too. And I mean, even the people in the chat. I mean, I wish I could show you the chat during this bit, but even right now, Noreen Henry's popped in and said he was the oldest person to have a number 1 album. There's more to it than that. He did a ton more than this. He survived rock and roll, which may be a flippant thing to say, but, you know, this is the guy who, in, you know, what was it, 62, 61, had a number 1 hit with I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Everybody knows that. You know, that was his theme song. That was his thing. But he made so many albums throughout his career. Frank Sinatra once called him the greatest singer he'd ever heard. How's that for praise? One of the greatest singers to ever live went and said that he was one of the greatest singers that ever lived. In 2014, to address Noreen's statement, at age 88, he broke his own record as the oldest living performer with a #1 album for Cheek to Cheek. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about there. Yeah, that was the album that he did with Lady Gaga. And by the way, when he released his final album, Love for Sale, he got into the Guinness World Record for being the oldest living human being to release a major record. Think about that for a minute. I mean, come on. You know? He was amazing. Absolutely amazing. He endured rock and roll. He had, even thinking about, when he made it, when he was literally cool in the 90s. Most of us who were in the audience and with this show remember that when he did the MTV Unplugged show. He started hanging out. He made guest appearances on David Letterman. He was on The Simpsons. He was at the MTV Video Awards. Think about that. Tony Bennett hanging out with the Red Hot Chili Peppers and, Katie Lang. But it happened. He had his own video, Stepping Out with My Baby, that, was in regular rotation on MTV. Yes, it's true. It is true. There wasn't a person in the world that didn't love this guy. It led to 1994. He did an episode of MTV Unplugged, which we'll get to in a minute, by the way. I really need to talk about that one. Released an album, MTV Unplugged. Tony Bennett won 2 Grammys. He won Grammys with his tribute to female vocalists, an album called Here's to the Ladies. He did a tribute to Billie Holiday, Tony Bennett on Holiday. Won a Grammy for that. Bennett Sings Ellington, Hot and Cool. Won a Grammy for that. He won Grammys for his collaborations with Playing With My Friends. Bennett Sings the Blues. A Wonderful World, his tribute to Louis Armstrong. That he did with Katie Lang. He celebrated his 80th birthday with an album called Duets, an American classic. Remember that one? When he was working with Barbra Streisand and Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder? Yeah. I mean, the guy, everybody loved this guy. He was an amazing performer. He really was. And if you don't believe me, and again, this is all from NBC and Variety. Variety just chimed in on this. The people that are paying tribute to him tonight: Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Elton John. President Biden released a statement today he said, for more than 70 years, Tony Bennett didn't just sing the classics. He himself was an American classic. Barack Obama shared a tribute on both Twitter and Instagram saying Tony Bennett was an iconic songwriter and entertainer who charmed generations of fans. He was a good man. Elton John, who performed Rags to Riches with him, said on Instagram, so sad to hear of Tony's passing, without a doubt the classiest singer, man, and performer you'll ever see. He's totally irreplaceable. I loved and adored him. Condolences to Susan, Danny, and the family. This one kind of got me. I'm not going to lie. But there was on Instagram, this is not the picture, but you'll get it when I see this. And this was printed by the Amy Winehouse Foundation. Remember when he did the album with Amy? Yeah. They shared a photo. It said, today marks the end of an era. We say farewell to Tony Bennett, a true star, a true gentleman, a wonderful friend, a mentor to Amy. Thank you for your music. Harry Connick Jr. wrote, rest in peace, Tony. You changed the world with your voice. Thank you for being so kind to me. Billy Joel piped in and said that he said Tony Bennett was one of the most important interpreters of American popular songs during the middle-aged 20th century. He championed songwriters who might otherwise have remained unknown to millions of music fans. Yeah, he was just, an amazing human being. Really an amazing person. But to me, he was just an incredible singer. He really was. He transcended music. I mean, Tony Bennett would sing "Stepping Out with My Baby," or, "Fly Me to the Moon." And the young kids dug it. He literally bridged generations. That's how cool he was. I had to show the tote board because everybody's just kind of, getting in on it. I'm sure he had more than 19 Grammys, probably in the hundreds. Mommies and great Grammys, too. But IMU City said, all seriousness, he leaves behind a great catalog of us for us to remember him by. Let's not forget the Duets album he put out at the age of 80, working with the Who's Who in the early 2000s. Amen, brother. Amen. Maybe not the Who's Who, but a significant number of big names. SNL will get Alec Baldwin to reprise his role as Tony in a skit. I hope so. That was always good fun. Depending upon which direction it'll go. I wanted to pay tribute to Tony in my own way. And I just want to do this really Cyrus Gray is popping in going, I heard love and adore him. Must be talking about me. Thank you. Yeah, no. But I do want to pay tribute to this with something that I am really amazed that nobody ever talked about. This is a clip that I want to show that really, if you didn't respect the guy before, you respected him then. And this was a clip from the MTV Unplugged show in 94. And what he does during this is, before he sings, he puts down his mic and he tells the sound man to shut off all the mics in the room. Now, obviously the sound man didn't turn off all the mics, but he turned off all the mics around Tony so that all you heard was the piano and a couple of overhead mics that recorded the audience. And I wanted to show you this because it shows not only the power that this guy had in his voice, but how he could be as soft and as versatile while being so powerful at the same time. And this is the way I want to remember this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tony Bennett. Don't blame her for. She is literally the face of the franchise right now. Even with Pat around, she is the face of the franchise. She deserves $7 million. And I don't think the people at Sony understand that. Merv Griffin understood it. But again, it was a different era. And, well, let's face it, Vanna's a woman. I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. I'm just saying it is. But, yeah, she just wants to make half of that. Right now, as far as the syndicated show goes, they're not going to do anything because, the writer's strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the sources are saying that Friedman asked Sony to use a third party who knows the game show space to evaluate Pat and Vanna's roles and their importance to them, which is really true. Then come up with a fair figure. And Sony turned their thumbs down on that. One of the problems, according to TMZ, is that Sony believes they ended up paying Pat too much. And they don't want to use his salary for comparability. And that hasn't sat well with Team Vanna, obviously. As one Vanna source put it, if it's going to get ugly, they, meaning Sony, it's going to get ugly if they don't get more serious. which is blending into our next story that I will get to in a minute, because they're saying that they're paying Pat Sajak too much. We'll get to that in just a minute, but in the meantime, let's move to the tote board. Going back to the phone scam thing. Cyrus is saying the clientele I attract is getting better. Yeah, no. Chris is saying they're not that dumb. Kit Boga has been working overtime with his team to shut down scammers. That's true, but at least he's got a phone. At least he's got a phone number that he can get through to them. At least they give him and Pierogi. They give them working phone numbers. This right here, bupkis. Okay, nothing. I got nothing. Moving on to Vanna White. Whose face would we rather see? Vanna, hands down, says Noreen. Yep. Can't argue that one. Chris is saying Sony doesn't understand a lot of things. At first, they weren't going to let the Spider-Man property go either. But apparently Disney wanted it more than they wanted to save money. Well, Disney's got money to burn. Let's face it, dude. You know, even the people at Sony, they've got a cap on their budget. Okay. So Sony bought it for a few billion, and Sony gets residuals for the next 10 years. Who wins there? For those that can't make ends meet at $3 million, McDonald's is hiring every day. Ouch. Ouch, dude. Wow. Oh. Union busting, are we? Huh? What is that all about? And speaking of which, speaking of union busting, got an update on the SAG-AFTRA strike. We're getting we're getting more details now about what this whole thing is actually about. I mean, we both knew, it was about wages and, preventing against AI and all that good stuff. But Variety has now given us a little bit more of an insight as to what this is all about. And this is, again, according to Variety, that according to sources on both sides, the biggest sticking point is the union's demand, the union being SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, along with the Writers Guild of America. The biggest sticking point is the union's demand for 2% of the revenue generated by streaming shows. Now, before people go, that's so greedy. No, it's not. This is something we like to call residuals. This is something that was very, very prevalent and still is in television and should be extended to streaming services. Why not? Okay, you see it on ABC. Okay, but then you see it on, Disney Plus, or you see it on Peacock. Why shouldn't you get the additional residuals from that? I agree with that completely. The two sides also remain far apart on basic increases in minimum rates. The studios are offering 5%, 4%, and 3.5% across 3 years of the contract. The union is demanding 11, 4, and 4. So, to put that into math perspective, the studios are offering 12.5% over 3 years. And the actors and the writers, the union, is demanding 19%. Sounds like they're kind of far apart, if you ask me. But again, according to Variety, that only scratches the surface. The parties are also at odds on dozens of issues, only a handful of which have been publicly reported. For example, there is the case of they allege that the studios want to pay an extra for one day of work to be scanned and then reuse that likeness forever. So if I walk across the street in a movie, they can take that picture and use it in the next 35, 40 movies, and I never get paid for that. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers hotly disputed that. But here's a breakdown. Here's what we're being told is the breakdown of the situation. For example, streaming revenue. We already talked about that. SAG-AFTRA wants 2% of the revenues that each show generates for a streaming platform to be paid to the performers. The union would use content valuation, which is a measurement tool introduced last fall by Parrot Analytics, to determine how much each show is worth to the platform. They're arguing SAG-AFTRA, which is led by union president Fran Drescher of the Nanny fame. She's arguing that it's essential to pay performers for the success of a show. The union says it's not married to Parrot Analytics, but that the studios have not countered with any other way to measure the performance. Let's talk about pay increases. The studios have offered the same economic terms to SAG-AFTRA that were approved to the Directors Guild. That includes a 5% increase to most minimum rates for the first year of contract. That's followed by increases of 4 and 3.5%. And again, SAG-AFTRA argues that it doesn't keep pace with inflation as demanded 11, 4, and 4 over the course of 3 years. Then there's the big thing. The big thing about artificial intelligence. I can't believe that we have come to this point in our lives. I mean, we all knew that it was going to get here one day, hopefully long before the zombie apocalypse. But here it is. The actors and the musicians are now going to scream about artificial intelligence. SAG-AFTRA is not seeking to ban AI, but wants to make sure that any use of a performer's likeness to generate a new performance is done with compensation and consent. To which I agree. The studios are saying they agreed to that, but Crabtree Island said the devil is in the details, which is a polite way of saying we agree with it, but not really. It's a very craftily put together proposal that a layperson looking at it might not see all the holes in it. There are huge gaps you can drive a Mack truck through. There's also, and I'm just kind of like glossing over the main points. There's a lot of other things that are going on that are like, unless you're really like in the business, you really don't care about. But this is just letting you know how this affects everybody. This is why you're not going to be seeing any new shows in September. I guarantee that. There's also a matter of self-taped auditions. Now, apparently this became the industry standard during the pandemic. But the Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA, wants to limit the use of them. The union wants to limit such auditions to no more than 5 pages of material. And the studios offered an 8-page limit. The two sides are also working on terms about turnaround times and a provision that would clarify no special lighting or equipment is needed. Okay, that makes sense to me. That totally makes sense to me. There's also pension and health contributions. Producers pay contributions to the pension and health plans based upon the performer's earnings up to a certain threshold. Same with any other artistic union. For a half-hour episode, the ceiling is $15,000. For an hour, it's $24,500. SAG-AFTRA wants to increase these ceilings to $45,000 and $75,000, respectively, to account for 40 years of inflation. Meanwhile, these studios have agreed to increase the ceilings to $20,000 and $30,000. there's one that's kind of interesting here that I did not know about, and this kind of intrigues me. In the streaming era, according to Variety, actors have been forced to wait for longer and longer periods to hear whether their show has been renewed. This is one of the primary ways in which the shift to streaming has affected actors' pay. So SAG-AFTRA struck a deal with Netflix last year that limits option periods to 18 months from the start of production on a season. The union wants to get the same deal with the rest of the companies represented by the studios. And the studio says that it agreed to do so for actors earning less than $65,000 an episode. So, yeah. Apparently, as of like a couple of days ago, SAG-AFTRA put out a detailed breakdown of these issues. They put them out. I don't know where. They haven't said anything. But yeah, it's kind of strange. And again, coming from, the background that I come from, but at the same time, I understand. It's like, there's like folks that, like Cyrus said, you can get a job at Burger King. If you really need money, you can get a job at Burger King. And there's people, the discussion's going on right here. Chris, for example, I 100% agree with Cyrus. The money should go to the contestants with taxes paid, not the networks. 2% is a lot of money. TV ads on streaming services for popular streams are expensive. Yeah, tell me about it. How about we look at the other end of this? What will be the interest rate on your short-term loan that you'll need to go to the movies and buy a bucket of fresh popcorn? Well, yeah, again, that's, but that's the studios doing that. It's not the actors doing that. The studios, and this is one of the things that, I heard when Fran Drescher made the original statement about them going on strike, that the studios are making record profits. But the actors' compensation is so antiquated that a lot of them are having a hard time making the rent. And I have good friends that are in Hollywood, and they're working 14, 16 hours a day. Not today, obviously, but it's tough. And for all the great work that they're doing, a couple of friends of the family, they put together a couple of terrific shows that worked on A&E, Discovery, and they're lucky if they can get pizza on Friday. And these are shows that one of them was nominated for an Emmy rather. I'm just saying. So I understand the actors. I understand the actors and the writers. I understand it. It's an antiquated situation. But again, we're talking apples and oranges. We're talking about, the Grabowski that's working construction, gets up and works construction for $35 an hour. And yet here's Fran Drescher complaining because she can't make $4 million for a season of The Nanny. I get it. But again, with everybody else, with same professions, different tiers, different vocations, but it's all down to the same thing. People want to live. They want to make a decent wage. So Chris is saying the comment is the part of the problem. That comment is the part of the problem. The actors are not the problem. It's the greed of the studios. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. They get crazy when you spend $100 million, but then you bring back $300 million. Oh yeah, well that's terrific. Meanwhile, the principals on the movie, they're only making like 10% of that. And God help you if you ask for residuals or percentage of the gate. Then the studios start, they start squawking. The greatest two factors of income, says Cyrus. Pro sports and movie. Remember Ma Bell? It took the government. It took the government to step in. Yeah, I don't think the government's going to step in on this one, man. I'm pretty sure they're not. So, yeah, we'll keep you posted on this. But I can guarantee you, I don't think we're going to be seeing any new shows come September, because it sounds to me like everybody's really far apart on this one. We also have an update on. I promised you guys whenever there was an update on this that I would keep you abreast of the situation, because this is something that I know a lot of other people are really, really interested in, for better or for worse, if just the curiosity factor, if nothing else. Of course, I'm talking about Dolly Parton's upcoming album. If you don't know about this, what cave did you just crawl out of? Dolly Parton has recorded her first rock album. This is in response to her being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year, after she turned down the nomination. Because Jan Wenner went, no, Dolly, you don't understand. We need to be relevant. And hey, we got Willie in. Why not you too? So Dolly, being the class act that she is, said, okay, if I'm going to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I'm going to have to earn it. So she went out and got some of the best musicians on the planet, some of the best rock and roll musicians on the planet, and recorded a rock album. The album is going to be called Rockstar. It is dropping November 17th. So far, she has released... she had released 3 tracks from it. A single, World on Fire, which is really good. It wasn't exactly a rock song, but it was right there, for the little country girl. It was more pop than rock, but it was really, really good just the same. I really enjoy it. I really do. Then came a duet that she did with Ann Wilson of Heart. They both did a duet of Magic Man, which again was good. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. It was one of those, as I said before, it was one of those situations where you could see Dolly starting to stretch out. She's starting to come out, and she's hanging over the edge, looking down, going, boy, that's a heck of a drop. But she pulled it off. She and Ann pulled it off. Great track. Then came my favorite. And this was the one that sent me over the edge and went, okay, maybe Dolly's got something going on here. And that was a track called Bygones that she recorded with, get this now, we're talking Dolly Parton, Rob Halford of Judas Priest, John Five from Motley Crue and Marilyn Manson, and Nikki Sixx on bass from Motley Crue. And this, to me, this is when you could see Dolly's eyes open up and go, oh, okay, I get it. And if you listen to that track, you're going to hear that girl snarl. And it is a thing of beauty. It is a thing of beauty. I can't impress it upon you enough. It's a great track. Possibly might be the best track on the album. And then today, she released another track. And you can hear it. You can go to YouTube and pick this out. And it is her cover of We Are the Champions, Queen. And We Will Rock You. Yes, We Will Rock You is on there. And I'm beginning to see the pattern. The pattern is that she started to do this album. And she took a couple of tracks and tried to do it herself. And somebody, either she or somebody else, looked at her and went, listen, Dolly, I think you're going to need a little help on this. This track, and I promised you guys I was going to be honest, this track falls short. It falls real short. This thing misses the mark completely. Props to her for trying. But honestly, first off, she made the mistake, or she did something creative where she switched the songs. She does We Are the Champions first, and then We Will Rock You, which is a cute trick. But really, honestly, it doesn't save the track at all. It really doesn't. And very honestly, straight up, it sounds like a country girl at karaoke night. Dolly, I'm sorry. Love you to death. I'm rooting for you for this album. I really am. I want to see this. I want to see greatness out of this album. There's potential for it. It really is. You've got everybody. You're working with everybody on this. You're working with Rob Halford. You're working with Kid Rock. You're working with the damn Beatles. Come on. Peter Frampton you're working with. The real serious people. Ann and Nancy Wilson. Come on. I'm rooting for you. I really am. But this track just no. No, hun. No. It sounds like the little country girl from Alabama at the bar on karaoke night. It really does. Although the background vocals, they sound real nice. They're real full, real Brian May-like, still doesn't save it though. And on a couple of occasions during the song, you went into double tracking the vocals, and it's really messy during the verse. Wasn't necessary. Really wasn't necessary. Okay. And for some reason during the last chorus, we are the champions, my friend. You do that again, you repeat it, but then you do this dropout where it's you and a piano. No, that's not what that song is about in any way, shape, or form. It's just no. It missed the mark. It missed the mark in so many ways. It was really disappointing. I'm with you on the rest of them. I am with her on the rest of them. Gotta tell you. The rest of what I've heard so far, World on Fire, Magic Man, Bygones, Bygones. Great tracks. We Are the Champions. Swing and a miss. The album comes out November 17th. The album's called Rockstar. It's going to be available on CD, streaming, all the usual platforms. If you buy it in vinyl, it's a 4-album set, different colored vinyl and all that. You can pre-order it now. You can go to Dolly's website or I believe Amazon and start pre-ordering it. Drops November 17th. Chicago Boy 61 popped in. Always good to see you, man. Thank you for stopping in. Said, probably no way for her to make this track great. Poor song choice. Yeah, it's just, I don't think it was a poor song choice, but I can see where, I can see the pattern now. I'm starting to see the pattern. Because she did record a bunch of songs on her own. And she wrote a few songs on her own. World on Fire being one of them. I think she co-wrote that with somebody else. And it's a great track. It's a really good track. But you can tell when she started this thing, I don't think she had a lot of guidance. And by a lot of guidance, I mean people that, and this is no affront on Dolly whatsoever. It really isn't. Because, love or hate country music, love or hate mountain music, love or hate folk music, she's a hell of a writer, and she's a hell of a singer. But, again, this is what she's done all of her life. You know, she did the stuff with Porter Wagner, and she did the stuff with Buck Owens, and she did the stuff, Coat of Many Colors, and Jolene, and I Will Always Love You, and Here You Come Again, and, the heaviest person she ever worked with before this was Kenny Rogers. So, yeah, I think that this was at the beginning of the project where she went, I'll do Queen. And nobody told her it was a good idea. Or at least nobody talked to her about her choice of production. So, yeah. And that's one of those songs I was really kind of worried about. There's certain songs that are going on in this album that I'm really worried about. But again, she's got people on her side during these songs. She's doing Let It Be. Paul and Ringo are helping her with it. Doesn't get any better. How much more help can you get with that? And then on top of that, she's got Joe Walsh and Peter Frampton on it. It's got to be halfway decent. And it's Let It Be. How badly can, So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. World on Fire, or not World on Fire, Rockstar. That's going to be, November 17th. I'm still, Dolly, if you see this, I'm still rooting for you, girl. I really am. I really want this album to be successful for you. I want that little country girl to come out and show us the sawdust. But right now we're 3 out of 4. Just saying. And speaking of which, it's about time for this gainer to get up and go. Time to get out of here. Please, again, I would totally recommend that you rush quick like a bunny over to hugs at WRGG.com, HUGSAT, to catch Cyrus Gray, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, as he does every Friday night with the Hugs Top 10 Countdown. Noreen Henry has already pre-ordered the album. Oh, boy, there's there's some confidence. I'm down with that. All right. Well, be that as it may, thank you so much for watching. I certainly do appreciate it. And we'll do this again next week if you're so inclined and you just have no taste and you're a glutton for punishment. Until then, my name is Tim Gainer. Thank you so much for watching. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Hey, we're still into the drive for 500 subscribers. Tell your friends, like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. If you like it, hey, you know what to do. We'll see you next week. Way out. Bye.
Thank you.